everyone, my name is Ryan and I'm back with another video. Today's video is another reading vlog in which I will be reading Siege and Storm, the second book in the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. This series is a YA fantasy based on Russian magic and Russian folklore, and the first book, called Shadow and Bone, followed a girl named Alina as she is discovering that she has sun powers and is taken to live with a magical people called the Grisha. This second book follows Alina and Mal as they are on the run from the Grisha, and everything kind of takes off from there. Because this is a reading vlog and because this is the second book in the series, there will be spoilers in this video for this book and possibly the first book in the series as well. Additionally, I do have a vlog of me reading the first book, so if you're interested in my thoughts on that and the series, I will link that on the screen. So with that out of the way, let's get into the vlog. See, this is sometimes what reading is in my world. Sometimes I'm alone, and sometimes I got a buddy. Hey everyone, so I'm about 5 chapters into Siege and Storm. I'm about that far into it, and so far it's not as gripping as the first one was, and I think it might just be because I didn't like the first one as much as I thought I was going to, and I kind of think this one might be a similar situation, but I'm still gonna give it a fair shot. I really do want to like this one in particular just because from what I'm experiencing just from the first 80 or so pages, it's more centered on the ocean and seafaring, and there's pirates involved, and that's something that I love in fantasy books, and I'm hoping that we see more of that in this book. We've learned that there are more super amplifiers like the stag was in book 1, and I've just gotten to the part where Alina is studying the Book of Saints and has discovered that there is a third amplifier as well. And honestly, I think the discussions on the saints and the stories are actually kind of my favorite part of the world building in this book. The world building in this series isn't very intense or anything, but the stories of the saints and the fairy tales that Alina grew up with do seem pretty fleshed out, and I'm enjoying that aspect. I will say I do have a little bit of a hang up on this book so far, and that is that I'm only on page 80, and so far a lot has happened. Like, they were on the run, then they got captured by the Darkling, and then they learned that there was another amplifier, and then Mal was supposed to track the dragon, and then they immediately found the dragon, and they immediately killed it, and now they have another amplifier, and then they escaped, and now they found out that there's another amplifier, and I kind of feel like things are happening a little too fast right now. I would have liked for there to have been more time that they spent tracking the dragon so we can get a little bit more of those seafaring type scenes, and also just so we can experience the dynamic between Alina and the Darkling a little bit more. And I kind of just feel like to set up the dragon as this big second amplifier and then finding it immediately in the next chapter kind of diminished the stakes and the importance of the dragon at all. But I'm stopping for the day. I'll probably read more tomorrow, and then I'll check back in with you guys later. This lighting is terrible because I'm in my garage, and I'm pretty sure you can hear my neighbor's snow blowing because that's the type of weather that we're getting right now, but I haven't vlogged in a couple of days, so we're just gonna go for it. So, hey, it's been a minute. I am now that much through Siege and Storm, so I'm a little over halfway through, and I have a new favorite character. I really love Nikolai. I've met him, and I remember that he was Sturmhond from the time that I read this book previously, so that wasn't as much of a surprise to me as it was when I first read this book. But I do know he's kind of like one of the fan favorite characters in the Grishaverse, and I understand why. He's very cool, he's charismatic, but there's also a little bit of an edge to him, which I really like, and he's also smart. I passed the part where he unveiled his, flying boat contraption invention, and I just thought that that was such a cool scene, and it gave me this appreciation for Nikolai, so I'm enjoying that. Right now where I'm at, they have just returned to the little palace and have met with the king, and the king has now decided that he's not going to hang Mal for deserting, and Alina is now trying to get the Second Army to trust her, and she has just learned that Zoya is on her side. And I'm interested to learn how this turns out and how big of a role Zoya is going to start playing now, because she wasn't that big of a role in the first book, so I wonder if she's going to have a much bigger part of the story now. I do wish that they would have been at sea for a little bit more, but that's just me. I just like that. The other thing I want to mention is that I know I liked Mal in the first book more than I remember liking him when I read the series for the first time. But now that I'm in the second book, I can definitely see why I wasn't gravitating towards him when I first read the series. And that is just that he is boring as hell. I don't really know what it is with him. I think it's just the fact that I have Nikolai now, and he's really cool, and I'm liking Alina more as a main character, and now with Tolia and Tamar, love them. I think Mal, for me, in comparison to a lot of the other characters, is kind of just fading into the background. Speaking of Tolia and Tamar, I really like them, and not gonna lie, I know this whole series is kind of like a love triangle or square between Alina and the Darkling, and Alina and Mal, and a little bit of like Alina and Nikolai at times. I feel like it's gonna kind of get there eventually, only I'm not quite too sure how I feel about that. In my head and in my heart, this series is about Alina and Tamar. We don't get like a whole ton of scenes of them together, but honestly, from what we get of them, I really like them as a couple. Like, I know they're not canon, they're not going to be canon, but they can live together in my heart. Like, there was that one scene where Alina was comparing herself to a weed, and then Tamar was like, I like weeds, they're survivors. And I was like, ooh! And then there was the scene where Tamar and Tolia were, like, sparring together and practicing, and Alina was watching them and talking about how Tamar is fighting like no one that she's ever seen fight before, and it was really cool, and I was like, you know what? Maybe I do like Alina and Tamar together a little bit. Other than that, that's really all I got for right now. I'm probably going to read a bit more today. If not, I'll check back in with you guys the next time I read, and I'll see you guys then. Hey guys, I'm home from work, so I thought I would update you on my Siege and Storm progress, and there's nothing new to report except that I'm now at the end of chapter 19, basically where I'm at. Mal's being kind of pissy, and Alina is hallucinating about the Darkling, and Mal's jealous as usual, and now Nikolai stepped in and he kind of sort of confessed his love for Alina, which is weird, and then Alina rejected him, and now everyone's sad. I'm a little mad because I remembered from when I read the series the first time that I thought Siege and Storm was my favorite one of the series, and as I'm reading it now, I'm learning that I just don't think I like this series as much as I did the first time, and I'm not really thinking that I'm really liking this book. And overall, I'm kind of finding myself not caring that much. I'm still gonna finish the series, I'm still gonna finish the book, I'm not DNFing, but I feel like if the show wasn't coming out and if I wasn't vlogging the experience of reading this series, I would not want to continue. Which is disappointing because I did really like this series in high school, but I don't know, I guess that just happens sometimes as you grow up. The other thing is just that I do think that this book suffers a little bit from second book slump or middle book slump or whatever you want to call it. You know, because it's the second book of a trilogy, it has the task of developing the world more than it was developed in the first book, while also setting up some threads for the finale. So I think it's just suffering from that a little bit. I'm noticing with this one, it took a longer time for me to get into it, and then I was into it, but then towards the middle, it got kind of slow, and now I'm not really into it again. But I'm almost done with it. I only have like 5 chapters or so left, so I'm hoping that the end of the book really turns it out and leaves me wanting to go into the finale. But that's all I got for right now. I'm probably not going to read any more tonight, but if I do, I'll update you. And the next time I talk to you will probably be when I finish the book. All right, so I'll see you guys then. Okay, so I know I said that the next time that I talk to you would be when I finish the book, but I lied. Because I remembered that in my last vlog when I read Shadow of Bone, I did my nails. So I thought that it would be fun to do that again. Alright, so this is the cover that we have to work with, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not a total fan of the red and teal sort of thing we got going on. This is my least favorite cover of the trilogy, but I'm just gonna take the blue and kind of go from there. So I have this teal color right here, and I have a silver that I used last time, and I have my black that I used last time. Alright, so this is it. Again, I am nowhere near the caliber of a nail artist, but these are my Siege and Storm nails. And just like last time, I have already messed one of them up. Alright, and while I'm here, I did want to talk really quick about Siege and Storm, just one last time before I go to bed, because I did read one more chapter, and I just want to talk about the fact that I really like the development that we're getting with Alina's character this time around. Where I'm at right now, she's getting a lot more hallucinations of the Darkling, and not gonna lie, I kind of wish that this would have been explored a little bit earlier in the book, and I think the reason why I'm liking it so much is because it's pointing out the similarities between them, and sort of this like reluctant dynamic that they have going on. I like that we have a female protagonist that has a power-hungry side, and it's just really interesting to read about. I just got to the part where she and Mal were fighting, and Mal made a comment about her giving up her powers and would she do it if she could, and her immediate response was never. And I kind of think that just that one little scene is kind of this culmination of this internal struggle that Alina has in this book, where she feels that she's gaining more power, and she's gaining power through the amplifiers, and it's changing something in her, and it's giving her a little bit of a darker edge, and I'm really liking it. But yeah, that's all for today. I'm probably going to finish it tomorrow, so I'll let you guys know what I think then. I'll see ya. Okay, so I finished Siege and Storm, and I can't get over that ending. Oh my god, like I really want to talk about the ending and like the scene where she was like, my power is yours and yours is mine, and I was like, oh my god! Like, okay, so, oh my god, that ending really turned it out for me. So really all I have to talk about is my final thoughts, and I want to talk about it more, but I don't want to do it in my car, so I'll see you guys later. And yes, I am filming this the same day that I am filming the intro to this vlog, because I wait until the last minute to do everything. But yeah, so my final thoughts on Siege and Storm. What are my final thoughts? My final thoughts are that I'm really glad I waited a couple of days in between finishing the book and sitting down and filming my final thoughts. And I'm also thinking about one of my New Year's resolutions or goals for this year to think about my ratings more, and I think that this is a perfect example of why that's one of my goals for this year. Because if I would have filmed this right after I finished the book, I would have been like, oh my god, Siege and Storm was amazing, this is my favorite one of the series, like this book was awesome. When really, when looking back at some of the footage of the vlog as I'm editing and kind of seeing my thoughts on the rest of the book and not just the ending really colored my perception of the book a little bit. I loved the ending. I loved the ending of this book. I think the ending was so action-packed, and it really honestly made me really excited to read the third book, and that excitement is still with me. I love that scene of when Vasily's trying to like be all smug, but Nikolai sees right through it and sees that his brother has been completely fooled, and then as soon as you realize that, everything starts to fall apart and it gets so serious and just, oh my god, it was so intense. The ending was so intense, and I love that there was a real sense of loss, where at the end of it, you know, there's this big, huge battle where they were so unprepared, and at the end of it, they see that really all that's left of the Second Army is just this little handful of Grisha. And even talking about the scene between Alina and the Darkling, where she took his power for her own and used it against him, and it just felt like this culmination of this tie, this bond that they have between the two of them, and it felt like her using it for herself and her claiming it. And we got some gore too, which I wasn't expecting. Like, I think there was a scene where I think it was Marie was killed, and it described her as being torn from like throat to navel or something like that, and Vasily got his arm ripped off, and I was like, oh my god, like I so was not expecting any of that. Which is funny because I have read this book before, so you would think that I would have remembered that, but no, completely forgot. But even though I thought that the ending of the book was absolutely stellar, and if I would have filmed this immediately after finishing the book, I would have rated the book 4 stars. But now that it's been a little bit, and I can kind of let the rest of the book sink in, I don't really think I liked this book that much. I think I liked it more than I enjoyed the first book, especially now that I've had some distance from the first book. For example, I liked the addition of the new characters that we got in this book. I kind of felt like they were more interesting than some of the characters in the first book. But all through this book, I did have some issues. There were some scenes that I really loved. Like, that's the thing with this series, and I kind of feel this way about the first book as well, is that there are singular scenes that I really love, whether it's the intensity or the imagery or the dialogue or what. I really love individual scenes. But stringing them together kind of drags a little bit, and I feel like there's these giant patches in the book where in the beginning, something really big happens, and at the end, something really big happens, but I feel like the middle is a whole lot of nothing. And I know I felt that way in the first book, and I definitely felt this way in the second book as well. I definitely feel like the beginning portion was way too rushed. I think we could have spent more time at sea or more time when they were captured with the Darkling, because I feel like all of that happened really quickly, where they, you know, they were getting captured, they were finding the dragon, they were killing the dragon right away, but then as soon as they went to the interior of Ravka and went back to the little palace, that's when things kind of started to drag a little bit more. In the end, I do have fond memories or nice thoughts on this book, just because I did really enjoy the ending and I really did love the new characters that we got. But when I look at the book as a whole and how I felt pretty much all the way through, I don't really think that I liked this book as much as I really wanted to. Again, it's much like the first book, where I'm not disliking it. I'm not sitting here being like, oh my god, I hate this book or I hate this series, but it's definitely not a new favorite series of mine. So with all of that in mind, I've given Siege and Storm a 3.5 stars. Alright, we've reached the end of the vlog. If you've read this series, let me know what you think down in the comments, and don't spoil it, but let me know if you think I'm going to like the third book as well. But that's all that I have for you today. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to be a good person. Bye!